We're called West Kirk. We're a congregation of the Presbyterian Church in Ireland. The building, the church building, was 100 years old at the beginning of this year. But the congregation of West Kirk has a shorter history. There was a Presbyterian church in this building. There was another Presbyterian church in which I grew up in the Lower Falls area. Opposite, there's a big Catholic cathedral down there, St. Peter's Cathedral, almost across the street from it. When the Troubles started in the late 60s, things became quite difficult for that congregation. And we decided, but our parish was really in the Shankill, and our work was among people in the Shankill. So we looked to see what we were doing. We had a minister, the congregation that met in this building at that time in 1970 was without a minister. Their minister had moved on to somewhere else. So after negotiations, we decided that the two congregations would merge. And that began, the new congregation came into existence at the beginning, early 1971. So we actually had our 40th anniversary in February past. So the new congregation came into existence in the very early stages of the Troubles. And really we were doing a work here throughout those pretty horrific years, including, for example, the infamous Shankill bomb, which was quite late in the Troubles, was almost diagonally across the road from us here. We do have a range of children's and youth organisations. Some of them are more traditional, Boys Brigade, Girls Brigade, which are uniformed Christian youth organisations. We have a Sunday school on a Sunday afternoon with probably about 30 children, most of them local children coming. We have a kids club on a Monday night for kids of primary school age, 4 to 10, 11-year-old, and can have up to 40 children at that. There's a building down the street here which belonged to one of the former congregations. It was a kind of outreach of the Albert Street congregation into this area. The building hadn't been used for a number of years, and in 1980 the Presbyterian Church in Ireland had a project called Youth Reach, where they were encouraging congregations to begin some new initiative in youth work, perhaps outside the box of the normal youth type of organisations. So we reopened this building initially as a youth club, and this was a time when a lot of teenagers around the Shankill, particularly teenage boys, were getting caught up in the paramilitaries. And we had that building open a couple of evenings a week as a youth club, activities, table tennis, pool, etc. And we also had a programme on a Sunday night after church time. But arising out of that, a couple of the elders in the church who were involved, as I was in the early days, in the youth work in that building, thought it would be good to try and re-establish contact with some of the guys that we had known who had ended up in prison but were now out of prison, are now men in their late 30s, 40s, and they began a group called Take Two, and with some funding they've enabled them to do a variety of kind of educational projects. For instance, a group of them did a project on racism and included a trip to Poland, to Auschwitz, and so on. And a lot of them have got some kind of recognition. They've got certificates for having completed this course, that course. These are guys for whom school was almost a non-entity. They came out of school, most of them probably missed school most of the time because they were caught up in the excitement of the Troubles, but they come out with nothing, and some of them have now, some of them have got into education the second time round. The work down in the centre, increasingly this Take Two group have been involved in a number of cross-community projects. In fact, when they went on that trip to Poland, there was a group from somewhere in West Belfast, nationalist West Belfast, who were there along with them. 2 Thursdays each month, for about an hour and a half over lunchtime, we open the porch of the church and people can come in for tea, coffee, biscuits. And on one of those days we have a short little 20-minute service at 1 o'clock.